Now this is the second electric bike that I've bought that I'm going to be testing and doing a shootout against the others that I buy just to see what you do get when you buy a budget electric bike. I was going to buy a handful of bikes under $1,000 US, and I was very surprised to find this one for just $500 US. So let's open it up and see what you get when you buy an electric bike for just $500 US. You get a goodie bag! Hey! Hey look, I'm mildly impressed, alright? I'm mildly impressed. I've got a cell phone holder, a bicycle pump, this appears to be a padded seat that can be put on the carrier for doubling people. You get a bike lock. A fairly comprehensive one-piece toolkit. Hey, oh, come closer and look. Come. Check that out. I'm an engineer. I've been an engineer for 40 years and I'm a bit of a tool nerd. Now, I know this is probably made out of Chinesium, so it's not the kind of thing that you'd use on a daily basis in the workshop, but what a handy way of packaging all the tools you need to maintain a bicycle, all in one unit. Let's see what else you get. The charger, of course, and an instruction book. That should be a laugh. The instruction book is 100% Mandarin. There is no English in it. Not a word, but that's okay. I have assembled dozens of brand new bikes in my time, so I'm going to pull this out of the box and we'll crack into it. Jackrabbit tyres. A triangle. It's an empty one. The other triangle. I'm such a tight ass that I save the zip ties by opening them on the tag instead of cutting them. They can go in the useful box. So here's the carrier. It's actually really sturdy. It's because the carrier had that seating pad to go on top of it. The carrier's obviously got to be made out of stronger stuff than the normal carrier, which it is. We'll deal with that later. Another free zip tie. Right, let's crack into a little bit of one-handed assembly work. Oh my god. The crank arms appear to be plastic. Seriously, I think they're plastic. With metal inserts for the threads. But that part there is plastic. I've never seen plastic crank arms. And to give you some idea of what happens when you buy something budget from China, you get added features like rivets applied by 7-year-old children who can't squeeze them up properly. The switchgear at first glance looks appallingly cheap. The pedal bearings feel as though they've been dipped in gravel. They really do. They feel awful. And they're plastic. And I've no doubt that they are the absolute cheapest available. The paint finish looks okay. The welds aren't particularly tidy, certainly not as nice as the previous bike that I tested. The assembly is rather haphazard. This hasn't been done up, it's still finger tight. I really don't understand why they've got this split mudguard. A two-piece mudguard is just really, really weird. Okay, it provides clearance for the suspension, and I'm thinking that is commonly what we call in the trade as a design fuck-up. I have seen worse welds on Honda motorcycles. Not regularly, but I do recall buying a Honda XR200 back in the 1980s, and I took the petrol tank off and found that the steering head weld, which was done by a robot, was actually not welded on the join. The weld was applied next to the join down the steering head, which was appalling quality control, and I don't know how many they put out that day that were welded next to where they should be welded instead of on where they should be welded. We've got a generation 2 LED headlight. By generation 2 I mean that it's not your old LED diode. This is what they call a cob diode, which is chip on board. You might be able to see the yellow dot in the center there. That's the little light emitting diode that's attached directly to the circuit board. They're quite bright and they last well. We've got a selection of different spaces here so that we can raise or lower the steering head. On the last bike I had stainless steel bolts and nuts everywhere. This one doesn't have that luxury. Painted spokes, which is interesting. I'm not used to that. They're a little heavier than normal. It's a completely unnamed derailleur brand. It's not Shimano. Shimano make a range. They make cheap stuff and good stuff. And virtually every bike I've ever worked on has had Shimano brand componentry. I'm expecting that the gears will be the first thing that I have trouble with. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 3 on the front. So we've got 3 on the crank, 9 on the cassette. 3 9s are 27, so we've got 27 speeds. It appears that they have put the tyres on the rims the correct way round, which is a bonus. I don't know whether we've got hydraulic forks or composite rubber dampened forks. They do have an oil seal on the top, so they may be hydraulic. So I'll get these handlebars fitted, try and get it looking more like a bicycle. and then we can have a proper chat about it. Okay, it's time to jump on and take this thing for a ride down to the shops and see how it goes straight out of the box. The Xingbu Intelligence with Jackrabbit tyres has a 400 watt rear hub motor and a 10 amp hour battery. That 10 amp hour battery and 400 watt motor gives you pedal assistance. The most I managed to get out of it was 52 kilometers an hour on a slight downhill without pedaling, but it does assist well. It'll get you up these long hills without having to change down. Here's the Lego buttons. They look pretty awful. The hand grips look awful, but they are reasonably comfortable. As suspected, the gear change does need adjusting. From new, I couldn't make it get into the highest range. And the LCD display is not an LCD display, it's simply little LED lights. So it's not a pictorial display. The headlight is adequate, but it's a bit like a torch. It provides a round beam and doesn't have a cut-off to stop dazzling people ahead of you. I've just come home with about 15 kilograms worth of shopping. That's about 17 pounds for the Americans. I've put it into these carrier bags, which I'd already purchased. Carrier bags are fairly generic. They do come in different sizes, but they all attach in the same way. So if you have a carrier on your bike, you can fit pannier bags. These are particularly good. They were 55 New Zealand dollars, so 25 bucks US. They'll hold 2 bags worth of shopping. They've got waterproof flaps over the zips, and most of the zips have got double sliders, so you can close them into the centre if that's what you need. Little mesh bag on the top. If you've been swimming, you can put a damp towel in there, a little air dry on the way home. If you're putting panniers on the back, it may pay to give your bike one of those nice little flashing LED red lights for safety, because you form a dark silhouette on the road. I'm going to say it, I still think those controls look like Lego bricks, and the light button is upside down. And the right hand handlebar, well, that's a bit of a letdown as well. The advertised LCD screen turned out to be an LED screen. There is quite a difference, let me tell you. Brake, suspension, gears and hand controls, all very mediocre. Overall impressions, well, it's got Jackrabbit tyres. You get what you pay for. It's the cheapest e-bike I've ever seen. I think it would make a great little bike for a teenager who's got to get to his first job or something like that. Throw some pannier bags on it, as I've done here, and with the cell phone holder on the handlebar and the bike lock, and you'd be ready to go. Would I buy one? Yeah, no. I prefer the Coswheel T20.